Greetings, gentlemen. This is OTR Ogre and Corgi, and a little philosophical, societal, questionable moment. If you own the land, don't you have the right to decide who lives there? If it's your house, couldn't you decide who's in your house? And if you're here, like, link, and subscribe. So what prompted this? Recently, I was watching a video from No BS, and he was talking about a group of black Americans that decided to pool their money together and buy a huge chunk of land in the middle of nowhere in Georgia, someplace called Toonsburg or something like that. Now, I know a lot of people look at that and they're like, well, that's kind of weird. But some people would look at it and it was like, when the black people were like, we want to build our own community, all black, want to have it for African culture, African this, African that, and a place that people can go to learn about their own people. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, as long as it's not raising up terrorists, I can give a shit less. But a lot of people are like, oh, wait a minute, why can they do this but everybody else can't? And here's the sick, sad truth. You can do it. You could build these things. Have you ever heard of a family farm? So let me see if I got this straight. A family farm has, you know, the main house, and then generally, you know, if you have kids still living there that have, you know, they get married, so you build side houses. Oh, wow. Is that like your own private community where only the people that are, you know, related or, you know, that you can't just move on to their property? They have right and ownership over their property, and they can decide what they want to do with it. I look at that, and I'm like, okay, there's your answer. I mean, look, no offense to all these people, these tool sheds from the alt-right, where they're like, they won't let us do it. They're trying to hold us back. Okay, I can honestly see a reason why they want to keep most people, and not just white, but just like everybody who's working class in this system. Because if people knew they had a better option, they would... they might move away. They might decide, hey, I don't want to live in this damn city anymore. Like, look what's happening in San Francisco currently, where people are like, you know, human shit on the ground, crazy protesters burning shit down. I think I'll move anywhere else. And the corona shit taught people that, hey, we don't have to live in this location. Now look at Kanye West buying a huge area out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming and having his own little gig there. Okay, it seems to be working just fine for him. Maybe black people started looking around going, well, if it worked for Kanye, why not us? And which I personally approve of this. I would like nothing better than to see the black community start to decide, hey, fuck living in the city. Fuck living in these, you know, urban Democrat plantations where basically things ain't got better for the last, you know, 70 years. We've been hitched our wagon to these people. I should say, what, 60 years, maybe 50, 60, somewhere in that range. We've hitched our wagon to this shit, and it's not working. Now, people would say, oh, these black people, were they building their own ethno-state? Well, okay, ask yourself this. Are you against Native Americans having their own group, their area to be on? And most people that are left as fuck would say, no, it's fine. They're different. No. They're a group of people, and they have a culture. So if these black people want to build their own little place for their own little culture, I don't know what the big deal is. Okay, same thing with the Amish. They have their little place. What about the, what do you call these Orthodox Jews? They build their own little communities. No big fucking problem there as long as they pay their taxes and, you know, they don't cause anybody else any trouble. What's the big deal? Even the people that are Muslim, they build their own little communities. If they want to have their own place and have their own way of teaching people, as long as those kids can read, write, and do arithmetic, and there's no abuse going on, what's the fucking problem? And it always comes back to, if people saw a better place to go, they would move the fuck away. And that would drain the tax base. That's why they don't want you leaving. And that's why they oppose the idea. It's not about, oh, they're worried about, you know, the next rise of, you know, Nazism or some shit. No, they don't give a fuck about that. That's just a cover. You have a handful of tool sheds that do that shit, you know, years ago. And, you know, there's some videos of it. And they use that as the cover for the fact that they just don't want you able to leave. But now with the internet being everywhere and people doing outside business, like you see with trucking, some guy might live in some place that doesn't have much income, much going on. The land is cheap there. But he can go out and drive through the country and make a ton of money, a private-owned business, and the taxes are lower where he's at because of, you know, there's not much tax base, so he gets a deal being there. And he can come bring the money back. The same thing with lots of different people with their arts and crafts. They can go out into the world and make some money, and then they can go back to their own community. Now, if you think that's like wild and out there, isn't that what everybody does anyways? I mean, last time I checked, when you pay the rent or own the house, you're deciding who walks in the door. And if you don't like the people that are coming into your house, you're like, hey, you got to go. It's your own private community. Really, you think about it, everybody has their own little private ethno-state, if you want to be honest about it. But people are like, no, they won't let us do it. It's like, no, you won't let yourself do it. That's the truth of it. If enough people get together, and you have to have that, okay, you got to look at it like this. You and 90 other people could decide, or like maybe it's just, like 30 people pooling together. But you're going to have to make sure there's one major owner. And that's where it always goes downhill. Because once people pay money for something, they want to know they own it. And so that keeps everybody fractional and divided. That's actually why you see sometimes with family farms, you'll see some of the kids, and they know they're not as much of the liked kid, and they move away because they're like, you know what, Dad's always treated this guy better. I know he's going to be the one inheriting. I'm not going to put. I like my family, but I'm not going to put my entire life into this, knowing that it's a raw deal. So that's the same feeling that causes people to decide not to build their own little communities. Because I've seen them occasionally across the country. I mean, hell, I passed near Wyoming. There was a middle of nowhere. You see this water tower or two, and there's a little private community out there. Now, is it based on ethnicity or anything? I don't know what it's based on. It might just be based on a group of people's shared beliefs. But there's their own little place. But what about the people who live in a private community next to a golf course? We don't see. You notice how we don't question it when it's like that. Now people would say, well, those private communities, you can't discriminate on who you sell to. You'd be amazed how you could discriminate in that respect. And that's the thing. If you really want to keep your community together, you have to have one major leader or group of leaders that carry those beliefs. Just like a tribal council when it comes to natives, where they want to make sure their kids learn to speak their traditional language, learn to do their traditional cultural activities, and they want to make sure that the way of life is passed down. You have to have an overarching group of people that maintain their way. And ironically, if you think about it, it's ultra-conservative. It's like, we're trying to conserve our way of life. You're conservatives. But before people lose their fucking minds and act like, nah, it's racist that they can do it and build this little, middle of nowhere farm and build their own little community, realize you could do it yourselves if you just fucking put your minds to it. Put your money where your mouth is. Just go and make it happen. Do I really care? No, not really. I look at things just from the standpoint of, like as long as people work, that's all. If you're a working class and you're paying your bills and you're not a parasite, that's all I give a fuck about. I'm not hung up on this whole thing of race or, even to some degree gender. Like I know people are like, you're a MGTOW. Why aren't you, stuck on gender? No, I'm not. As long as you work and pay your bills, I don't give a fuck what you do. That's it. Just it. So, anyways. Y'all have a good one. Like, link, and subscribe. OTR Ogre out.